In the early hours of April 4, 1933, tragedy struck off the coast of New Jersey as the USS Akron, a majestic airship hailed as a symbol of American innovation and naval might, met its untimely end. The USS Akron was one of the largest helium-filled rigid airships ever built, and was a flagship of the U.S. Navy's lighter-than-air fleet. Designed to serve as a flying aircraft carrier capable of reconnaissance missions and strategic operations, it represented the cutting edge of aviation technology in its time. However, its promise was overshadowed by a tragic series of events that culminated in one of the deadliest airship disasters in history. The Akron departed from Lakehurst Naval Air Station on the evening of April 3, 1933, on a routine mission. The airship carried 76 individuals on board, including officers, crew members, and Rear Admiral William A. Moffett, a prominent advocate of naval aviation. As the Akron embarked on its journey, the weather quickly deteriorated. A powerful storm system swept across the Atlantic coastline, bringing with it fierce winds and turbulent conditions. The crew faced an escalating battle against nature, but the airship's massive frame and advanced technology were expected to withstand such challenges. However, as the storm intensified, it became evident that the Akron was in grave danger. Buffeted by gusts and lightning, the airship struggled to maintain stability. Its crew worked tirelessly to control its altitude and course, but the relentless winds proved overpowering. At approximately 12:30 a.m. on April 4, the USS Akron was forced into a rapid descent over the Atlantic Ocean. The airship's massive structure, stretched to its limits by the storm, collapsed as it struck the water. The aftermath was catastrophic. The USS Akron's vast envelope and gondola were swallowed by the churning sea. Of the 76 individuals on board, only 3 survived. Many of those who perished succumbed not to the initial impact, but to drowning or hypothermia in the icy waters. Tragically, there were no life vests aboard the Akron, and the ship's accompanying rescue craft, the Navy's J-3 blimp, also met disaster, crashing while en route to the scene and killing 2 more crew members. The loss of Rear Admiral William A. Moffett, a pivotal figure in naval aviation, was particularly devastating. His death not only marked the end of a visionary leader's career, but also cast a shadow over the future of lighter-than-air naval operations. The tragedy prompted widespread criticism of the Navy's reliance on airships, and the apparent lack of safety protocols and equipment, such as life vests and lifeboats, which could have saved many lives that fateful night. Public mourning followed the disaster, as did heated debates about the role of airships in the U.S. military. The USS Akron had been a symbol of hope and technological progress, but its destruction underscored the risks and limitations of such ventures. Investigations revealed shortcomings in the airship's design and operation, as well as the crew's preparedness for severe weather conditions. These findings cast doubt on the viability of rigid airships as practical tools of military strategy. The Akron's demise marked a turning point in the history of U.S. aviation. While lighter-than-air technology would not vanish entirely, the disaster contributed to a shift in focus toward heavier-than-air craft, which would go on to dominate both military and civilian aviation in the decades to come. The tragedy of the USS Akron remains a somber reminder of the perils faced by pioneers of the skies, and the sacrifices made in the pursuit of progress. The lives lost in the stormy waters off New Jersey are honored as a testament to the courage and determination of those who dared to push the boundaries of flight. In the days following the tragic crash of the USS Akron, the nation was engulfed in a profound sense of shock and mourning. Newspapers across the country dedicated their front pages to the disaster, featuring images of the Akron in its prime, soaring gracefully above cities and landscapes, juxtaposed with stark accounts of the devastation off the New Jersey coast. The disaster was not merely a loss of life, It was a symbolic blow to the United States' burgeoning dreams of dominance in the skies. The public outcry began almost immediately. Critics pointed fingers at the Navy's over-reliance on rigid airships, a technology that had already shown significant vulnerabilities. The USS Akron was not the first airship to succumb to disaster. Its sister ship, the USS Shenandoah, had crashed 8 years earlier during a violent thunderstorm, claiming 14 lives. These repeated tragedies raised serious questions about the wisdom of pursuing rigid airship technology as a cornerstone of the Navy's strategy. Despite the promise of innovation, these colossal craft seemed ill-suited to the unpredictable and often violent forces of nature. In Congress, the disaster reignited debates about military spending and the future of lighter-than-air programs. Critics argued that the resources invested in airships like the Akron could be better allocated to developing more robust and versatile heavier-than-air craft, such as airplanes, which were rapidly advancing in design and capability. The Wright brothers' invention had already revolutionized aviation, and by the 1930s, airplanes were proving to be faster, more reliable, and more adaptable than their massive, helium-filled counterparts. For the Akron supporters, however, the airship's potential as a reconnaissance and fleet coordination platform remained compelling, and they cautioned against abandoning the technology entirely. Rear Admiral William A. Moffat's death added another layer of complexity to the fallout. Moffat had been a staunch advocate for the integration of airships into the Navy's strategy, and his loss was a personal tragedy for many in the military. However, his absence also left a leadership vacuum in the Navy's aviation program, one that was quickly filled by figures with a more skeptical view of airships. Moffat's vision of a fleet of lighter-than-air vessels supporting the Navy's surface ships was fading, replaced by a growing consensus that the future belonged to fixed-wing aircraft and other emerging technologies. The Akron's wreckage became a grim focal point for rescue and recovery efforts. Salvage operations faced immense challenges due to the location and depth of the wreck, as well as the hazardous weather conditions that persisted in the area. Divers and rescue teams worked tirelessly to recover bodies and artifacts from the crash, their efforts hampered by the relentless waves and strong currents of the Atlantic. The remains of the Akron itself were scattered across the ocean floor, a silent testament to the ambitions and failures of an era. For the survivors, the ordeal was far from over. The 3 men who escaped the disaster, clinging to debris in the freezing waters until they were rescued, became reluctant witnesses to one of the most harrowing nights of their lives. Their accounts of the crash painted a vivid picture of chaos and desperation as the Akron descended into the storm-tossed sea. They described the valiant efforts of the crew to stabilize the airship, the mounting realization that disaster was inevitable, and the heart-wrenching moments as their comrades were swept away by the cold, dark waters. These survivors became symbols of both the tragedy and the resilience of the human spirit, their stories serving as a stark reminder of the risks faced by those who pushed the boundaries of exploration and innovation. As the investigation into the Akron disaster unfolded, attention turned to the airship's design and operational history. The Akron, like other rigid airships of its time, relied on a complex framework of aluminum and fabric, with its immense volume filled by helium to provide lift. While helium was a safer alternative to the flammable hydrogen used in earlier airships, it was not without its challenges. The lightweight construction of the Akron made it vulnerable to structural stress, particularly in turbulent weather conditions. Additionally, the airship's sheer size and limited maneuverability made it difficult to respond to sudden changes in wind or altitude. The Navy's inquiry revealed several critical flaws in the Akron's operation. Chief among them was the lack of adequate safety equipment, including life vests and rafts, which could have saved many lives. The report also highlighted the need for more rigorous training for airship crews, particularly in handling emergency situations. These findings led to a series of recommendations aimed at improving the safety and reliability of airships, though many of these measures would come too late to salvage the reputation of lighter-than-air craft in the military. In the broader context of aviation history, the Akron disaster marked a turning point. The 1930s were a decade of rapid progress in aerospace engineering, with significant advancements in airplane design, engine performance, and navigation systems. The Akron's failure underscored the limitations of rigid airships in an era where speed, range, and durability were becoming paramount. While airships would continue to be used in limited roles, such as for advertising and surveillance, their time as a dominant force in aviation was drawing to a close. The legacy of the USS Akron extends beyond its immediate impact on the Navy's aviation program. The disaster became a cautionary tale about the dangers of technological hubris and the importance of balancing ambition with practicality. It also served as a reminder of the sacrifices made by those who dared to explore new frontiers, often at great personal risk. The men and women who worked on the Akron, from its engineers to its crew, were pioneers in their own right, pushing the boundaries of what was possible in an era of rapid change. In the years that followed, the lessons learned from the Akron would inform the development of safer and more reliable forms of aviation. The Navy shifted its focus toward fixed-wing aircraft, investing in carrier-based planes that would become the backbone of its fleet during World War II. Meanwhile, the broader aviation industry continued to innovate, leading to the rise of commercial air travel and the eventual exploration of space. Today, the story of the USS Akron is preserved in museums, books, and memorials dedicated to the history of aviation. While the airship itself has long since vanished beneath the waves, its legacy endures as a symbol of both the promise and peril of human ingenuity. The Akron's brief, tragic journey serves as a reminder of the price paid by those who strive to conquer the skies, and the enduring quest for progress that defines the American spirit. The USS Akron story, while already deeply etched in the annals of aviation history, had a ripple effect that extended far beyond its immediate tragedy. Its impact on the U.S. Navy, aviation policy, engineering practices, and even cultural perceptions of technological progress marked a significant chapter in the narrative of American innovation. This extended examination of the Akron's legacy explores the profound ways it influenced various aspects of society, and how its memory is preserved today. In the months following the Akron disaster, a somber mood lingered across the nation. Families mourned their loved ones, communities rallied to honor the lost, and public officials faced growing pressure to address the systemic failures that had allowed such a catastrophic event to occur. Memorial services for the victims were held in cities across the country, with Rear Admiral William A. Moffat's funeral standing out as a particularly poignant moment. Moffat's contributions to naval aviation had been monumental, and his death was not only a personal loss for his family and colleagues, but also a symbolic end to an era of ambitious but flawed technological optimism. Public scrutiny of the Navy's airship program intensified in the wake of the disaster. Journalists, engineers, and aviation experts published scathing critiques of the rigid airship design, pointing out its inherent weaknesses. Letters to editors from concerned citizens flooded newspapers, with many questioning why so much taxpayer money had been invested in a technology that seemed doomed to fail. Some writers went so far as to call for an outright ban on further airship development, arguing that their risks outweighed their potential benefits. The Navy's leadership found itself in a precarious position. While there were still proponents of lighter-than-air craft within the ranks, the political and public climate made it increasingly difficult to justify continued investment in airships. Budget constraints during the Great Depression further complicated matters, as funding priorities shifted toward more immediate needs, including job creation programs and relief efforts for struggling communities. As a result, the Navy began to scale back its airship program, canceling plans for new construction and decommissioning older vessels. For engineers and scientists who had worked on the USS Akron and other airships, the disaster was both a professional and personal blow. Many of these individuals had dedicated their careers to advancing lighter-than-air technology, and the Akron's failure called into question the validity of their life's work. Some transitioned to other fields within the rapidly growing aviation industry, contributing their expertise to the design of airplanes and helicopters. Others became educators, passing on the lessons they had learned to a new generation of engineers and innovators. The Akron's demise also had a profound impact on international perceptions of airship technology. During the early 20th century, airships had been hailed as marvels of engineering, capable of crossing vast distances with elegance and efficiency. Germany, in particular, had invested heavily in airship development, producing iconic vessels like the Graf Zeppelin and the ill-fated Hindenburg. The Akron's crash, combined with other high-profile disasters, cast a shadow over the future of rigid airships worldwide. By the end of the 1930s, airplanes had decisively eclipsed airships as the preferred mode of long-distance travel and military reconnaissance. However, the legacy of the Akron was not entirely negative. The disaster spurred important advancements in safety protocols and engineering standards. For example, the Navy implemented stricter requirements for life-saving equipment aboard all aircraft, including life vests, rafts, and emergency signaling devices. Training programs for pilots and crew members were overhauled to emphasize the importance of preparedness and adaptability in crisis situations. These changes saved countless lives in the years to come and set a precedent for the aviation industry as a whole. The Akron's influence extended beyond the realm of engineering and into the cultural consciousness of America. The disaster became a touchstone for debates about the role of technology in society and the balance between ambition and responsibility. Artists, writers, and filmmakers drew inspiration from the Akron story, using it as a lens through which to explore themes of human ingenuity, hubris, and resilience. Novels and plays set in the era often featured airships as symbols of both hope and tragedy, reflecting the complex legacy of these magnificent but flawed creations. One of the most poignant aspects of the Akron story is the way it has been remembered and commemorated over the decades. Memorials and plaques dedicated to the victims have been installed in various locations, including Lakehurst, New Jersey, where the airship's final journey began. Museums devoted to aviation history often include exhibits on the USS Akron, featuring photographs, models, and personal artifacts recovered from the wreckage. These displays serve not only to educate visitors about the technical aspects of the Akron, but also to honor the bravery and dedication of its crew. For historians, the Akron represents a fascinating case study in the interplay between technology, policy, and culture. Its story sheds light on the challenges of managing large-scale innovation in a rapidly changing world, and the importance of learning from failure. Scholars continue to study the Akron's design, construction, and operational history, seeking insights that can inform modern engineering practices and decision-making processes. In recent years, advances in underwater exploration technology have renewed interest in the Akron's wreck site. Marine archaeologists and divers have proposed expeditions to survey and document the remains of the airship, which lie in the depths of the Atlantic Ocean. These efforts aim to uncover new information about the crash and preserve the Akron's legacy for future generations. While the logistical and financial challenges of such endeavors are significant, the potential rewards in terms of historical knowledge and cultural preservation are equally compelling. The story of the USS Akron also resonates in contemporary discussions about risk and innovation. As humanity ventures into new frontiers, from commercial space travel to artificial intelligence, the lessons of the Akron remind us of the need to approach technological progress with caution and humility. The airship's fate underscores the importance of rigorous testing, contingency planning, and ethical responsibility in the pursuit of advancement. Today, the Akron's name stands as a symbol of both ambition and sacrifice. Its towering silhouette, once a beacon of hope for the future of aviation, now exists only in photographs and memories. Yet, the impact of its brief existence continues to be felt, shaping the trajectory of aviation and serving as a poignant reminder of the complexities of progress. In the end, the USS Akron is more than just a story of tragedy. It is a testament to the indomitable spirit of exploration and the enduring quest to conquer the skies. While its physical form may have been lost to the ocean's depths, its legacy lives on, inspiring generations to dream, innovate, and strive for a better future.